Marc, share a little bit about your startup. What are you building?
So with Comfu, we are focused on building a future of work that really bypasses the current SaaS model. The future of work is going to be less tedious for founders, less tedious for managers, less tedious for workers, less tedious for everyone. And so I really, after a career of working and with knowledge workers around the world, I identified those things that create the biggest unnecessary friction. I feel the whole SaaS model is full of friction. I feel, the 120 tools I have to toggle between is a lot of friction. The learning curve to learn all those tools is friction. I feel learning all the three or four or five payment models for all those tools is friction. I've really been working on this for a long time, thinking, God, I would really love to have a product that, took care of some of these things. And so I identified, I'd say the top 10 or 15 tools where I spend about 80% of my time, where I believe knowledge workers like me spend 80% of our time. And I said, why don't we just put all these together? Began to bring those tools into a single kind of seamless, frictionless interface. I began to realize the greater potential of that. And I had to come up with a business model to fit around that. Consolidate 10 tools in one. There's other things you can do when you eliminate all that friction. And so that's Comfu.
Wow, it's great. I like the way that you've articulated it. And what I've seen, like your solution is really elegant and it uses tools or it uses a platform like you're using like a WordPress platform as a base to allow people to just access it easily. Appreciate everything that you're doing. I believed in, as soon as I saw your pitch, I knew this is something that we want to get behind. Let's talk about just the quick funding journey. So, how much money have you raised so far? What's the current status of funding? And feel free, leave out any gory details. Just give me the overview.
Very simply, I put in the first 100K out of my own wallet. We're all offshore. I live in India most of the time to run it. So I got my hands on. I own an agency, as you know. So the agency, I can hire people direct. So I get even lower rates than contractors. So $100,000 goes a long ways. That was in the beginning. Just recently, we raised about $500,000. We called it a late seed. So far, I haven't had to put any more cash out of my pocket because the revenue from the agency works. And then we've got that extra 500,000. We're good. So that's the high level.
You raise the 500K to pour gasoline on the fire to keep your trajectory
That is
going.
correct.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's the
because
best time to raise investment.
correct. Yeah, because it's a service-based company, the engine, the one that pays for it, but it only brings in a certain amount every month. So you got its cash flow, it's, you're dealing with all that. And I said, you know what, let's just raise a little bit of money, offer some safe notes. 5 out of 6 people we spoke to, investors, got involved, put $100,000 in each. It was pretty easy. It was done about a month and a half with 6 interviews, 5 closed. Showed them the tool. They loved it. They liked the vision. And so it was pretty easy to close it.
Fantastic. We have had a long history. Man, it seems like we've been working together for a long time, just going back and forth on when to raise, how much to raise, all the strategy. But here's a selfish question. What has it been like to work with me in terms of working on your pitch deck and just understanding, talking to investors, all the questions that you've asked, and just raising that money? What's it been like?
When I came to Startups.com, I was looking for, I don't know, I was maybe looking for a magical platform, and I had that kind of in my mind, and I was watching videos and I said, this looks like the place we need to go. Then I found my way to you as my advisor, and I usually don't take advantage of those types of things. I usually ignore advisors. I'm kind of a go it alone kind of guy, up to a certain point. Once there's momentum, I bring people in. I didn't feel I had enough of momentum, but when I met you recognized what I was doing quickly, as ugly as it was, and as big and ambitious as it was. And you were the first person, and I can say this definitively, you were the first person who got it. And you told me you brought up benefits, and you brought up some very specific things that spoke to me, and nobody else had gotten it at that point. Yeah, you were excited about it, and it was genuine. I was listening to you, and I've watched enough of your videos I could kind of gauge how your reactions worked. And I was like, yeah, I think this guy gets exactly what I'm doing. And you gave me some very clear, sometimes some of it was tough advice, but you gave me some very clear things on what to look for. You looked at my deck and you tore it apart, and it came out way better. And that's the deck I used to raise. Things have changed a little bit since then, especially as we're now, looking forward to, I think a Series A would be the next time we raise funds. It wasn't just a deck for investors. It was actually a deck for critical internal stakeholders.
That's
So
awesome.
I had to get my employees on board because they were kind of lost. They didn't know where we were going, what we were doing. They heard these big dreams, but they needed to see something. Okay, where does this lead? You showed me how to, what slides to include. And so I've used that with all stakeholders, and that was the deck I used to close.
The way that you and I work together, and I wish all founders that I work with would work with me like you do, because you had a very strong conviction about your vision. So you didn't let me just kind of knock you off You were like, no, this is it. And I just had to refine it. So it was a matter of mining out what was inside of you and communicating that. And then you were on top of it. Like I'd send you some changes and you'd send me a whole bunch of changes back and we'd go back and forth and really wrestle with it. And you were going out and testing it. And what I love is the hustle, right? You're obsessed with this problem. It's one of the best qualities about you. So I love working with founders like you. Let's talk about kind of some good news because like you've been so successful with your product and raising that 500K that we didn't even send you out to the world yet. Like you just kept working like the contacts locally and different things and it was working. You said, 6 presentations, you closed 5. And now you're saying, I'm going to raise later. Walk me through what's your mindset? Why not go raise a pile of money right now? Because you could. What are you thinking?
That's a tough one, and it's not one that changes day to day, but it could change. So I'm looking for the best possible outcome for what we have built. And so I think we're in a little bit of a unique situation because we didn't just build something simple. I think you've recognized this. This is something that solves a lot of problems, and there's a lot of ways to sell it and a lot of ways to push it. That's what I appreciated about that first call that we got on, is when you brought up Zenefits and you understood what we were doing and you understood, and that was the marketing angle. I hadn't thought about how the heck are we going to sell this thing. My concern, and I'm going to speak to you more about this because this is where I want help, is on when, when to do it, and so I want to learn, I want to listen and figure out if I am going down the right path. My concern is not that bringing outside money and institutional investors in. It's not that we can't use that money. Problem I feel right now is that where we're going might get suffocated if there's immediate demands. And I get it. I get why some startups need to go out and raise as much money as they get, that 10, $20 million in cash, get it in the bank, get 5 million, whatever it is. I get it. It's not greedy and about holding on and owning as much of the company as I can. I feel like I have to finesse it to a point to where it's clear and it's validated enough to where when those people put the money in, it's not a constant struggle with those institutional investors where they're going to steer me. I know what I'm building, Ed. I know exactly what I'm building, and I know that it's the right way. But I don't. Very few people have known it and can look at me and listen to me and look at what we're doing and say, "You're right." They will want to steer a little bit or get involved a little bit. And I think it will end up being a distraction. Look, we've got revenue, right? We've got that driving us, and we're getting into the market now. We're building up our repeatable sales process. We got 5,000 interested users. We unfortunately couldn't bring them on because we couldn't handle we couldn't handle that. We didn't have a success team to work it. It's a difficult product to onboard people into. So that's a different challenge. But if I had to report that and then deal with the stress of that and then deal with somebody on the board I just think that would be unnecessary and distracting. There is nobody pushing me harder than me and my team right now and my customers. And I just feel that, don't think that anybody right now, that people can help. I could take great advice, but I think if there was cash, a big lump of cash all, tied into it, I just feel like I might not be focused on the right things. I will
Absolutely.
look to you, Ed, for some feedback on that. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
completely wrong.
And that's where you and I will go back and forth. But I just want to point out for people listening, and this is the great part of the story. Like you'd send me these emails and you'd say, I got 5,000 people who want in, but we can't take them on. And that's a sign that you're getting a product market fit, right? And you just have to figure out and reducing the friction as you talk about it, onboarding, like you're thinking all the right way. So you and I are definitely going to talk, and we're going to talk about when is the right time to raise money, under what conditions. And that's pretty much what I love. I don't have to try and drag you along. You're already going, and I just have to say, hey, watch out, don't go left, don't go right. These are the different things. So kudos to you, and I look forward to working with you and getting to the next level.